Hey everybody, KC here. So I'm in Aurora, Colorado at the annual WAFC meeting, Western Association of Food Chains. And Aurora is just a little bit east of Denver, and we're at the Gaylord Rockies Hotel and Resort. Really fabulous location. And WAFC is a really kind of unique organization, especially in terms of the emphasis that they put on education. They're very connected into the USC Food Industry Management Program. I talked a little bit about that earlier this year. We're talking a little bit more about it later this week. And so they really put a big focus on raising money, scholarships, and really educating people within the industry to move forward, to be better educated and better able to handle the challenges of the future. So it's a really interesting show. A lot of socializing. It's a very social show. Real opportunity for one-to-one business meetings. Really interesting. And the other thing they do, and this is kind of unique, I've never really seen it before, is they have an opportunity for some of the major retailers here to do what they're calling town halls, where they can sort of talk to vendors about some of their plans, what they want to do, where they're going, and how, quite frankly, vendors can help them going forward, help those retailers build their businesses, and in doing so, help the vendors grow their businesses. So it's really kind of an interesting opportunity to see a little bit behind the curtain, not too much. I mean, one of the ones today, I'm reporting this on Sunday, was Albertsons. Not surprisingly, the word merger never came up. It was interesting. One of the things that Janelle Davidson, the Senior VP of National Merchandising, talked about is she did make the point, however, that right now we're still an independent company and it is business as usual. She wanted to communicate to the vendors that going forward so they would participate in some of the programs that Albertsons is developing. Now, there was a Q&A at the end, and one vendor did stand up and in what Janelle referred to as kind of a cringy moment, where she said, well, you may say it's business as usual, but people in your divisions, buyers in your divisions, don't always get that message. And so that happens in any organization, whether you're about to go through a merger or not. And but clearly it points to a disconnect between what Albertsons would like to be the case and what may be the case on the outside. Mostly Albertsons use their time to talk about various technological innovations that they're doing, ways in which they're trying to build greater collaboration with vendors on a variety of levels, both in-store and digital, and talked a little bit about a partner portal that they have developed, and even how they're trying to, in certain cases, work with small vendors and work with small companies to help them have better presence in the store. And that to me is kind of interesting, because one of my observations about a merger between Kroger and Albertsons, if in fact it goes forward, and we don't know if that's going to happen yet or not, is that I think one of the constituencies that's really going to be hurt is going to be the small vendor community. When these two companies come together and become even more of a behemoth, I think it's going to be really hard for small vendors to be hurt and to find their way onto shelves. But we'll see. Maybe that won't be the case at all. Another one of the presentations was, Kroger's not here, by the way, in terms of talking about Kroger as a national organization. KingSoopers City Market was here. Easy for them to be there. This is their backyard. And one of the things that they talked a lot about is how their company is really benefiting from all the residential growth that's taking place in this area. And I got to tell you, just driving around Denver a little bit, seeing some of the areas. I have a brother who lives in Littleton, and at one point I went to see him going from the airport to Littleton, and you have to basically circle the city. And it just seemed like every place there is housing developments being built. Here at this convention center and hotel, it's extraordinary how much of the outlying area here is filled with communities that are being built. Cookie cutter communities to be sure, but communities that are going to be pretty expensive going forward. Some of the pricing you see is things like, starter homes starting at $600,000 and $650,000. That's pretty inexpensive for a starting home. And if there's a lot of growth going on, you know those prices are only going to go higher. But I have to say that the presentation I really found was interesting today. There were three, and that was the one from Raley's and Bash's'. And Jen Warner, who's the president of Raley's, did a lot of the presenting. And there was a real focus on some of the benefits that they have seen post-acquisition of Bash's'. And that was, about 3 years ago or so. And they said basically they've been able to double their business. And one of the things they'd like to do is double their business yet again in the next 3 to 5 years. Now, some of the other acquisitions they've made have been in the technology sector, and I think that's really interesting. One of the things she talked a lot about was the idea of acquiring technology companies that allow them to do things in a proprietary kind of way, special to them, that is going to allow them to differentiate themselves in the marketplace. And I think that's really smart. I think it's smart. And listen, they're not a company like Walmart or Albertsons or Kroger or Target or Costco. They're significantly smaller than that, and yet they're making these very targeted, surgical almost, acquisitions that are going to allow them to differentiate themselves in the market. I just think that's such a smart strategy. And they talked a lot about what they want to do when they make those acquisitions. I mean, they basically talk about they want to do things that are allow them to amplify the things they're doing now, build on their strengths, okay, and being really, really, really targeted about it. They talk about having, now that they've made this acquisition, she talked about being sort of agnostic when it comes to economic conditions, that they have formats that are value formats, health and nutrition formats, digital formats, upscale gourmet formats, even formats for things like on Native American lands, where a large percentage of houses may not even have running waters. They're going to have to have a different offering in those places. Really, really, really kind of interesting. But the thing that really got my attention is that she basically said, yes, we've made acquisitions, but we want to make more acquisitions. And she said basically that the Raley's family of businesses, they want to make more acquisitions based on the West Coast that they feel are going to support what they've done to this point and allow them to expand and grow their business even more, double it, right? And I find that fascinating because, your mind sort of goes, what businesses are they talking about acquiring? Who might be for sale? Who are big enough to be interesting to them that would be allowed to? Are they businesses that are independent now? Or could they be regional, local chains that are actually owned by other companies now that might be divested? And one of the other possibilities, of course, is if the Kroger-Albertsons merger goes through and CNS gets, 600 or so stores, CNS may certainly be in the mood to divest some of those stores in an appropriate fashion to a company like Raley's. I don't know what they're thinking, but I think it's fascinating that they're saying to themselves, we need to continue to acquire. They are a buyer, they're not a seller. And I think in a marketplace like we have right now, where there's so much consolidation taking place, I love it when consolidation's taking place at the level of a company like Raley's. They're really, really smart people. They're ambitious. They've got kind of audacious goals in some way, but they're also not so huge that you're just seeing this enormous conglomeration of power at the top. They're building something really interesting, and I find that to be really fascinating. Anyway, that's my sense of day one. Some of the town halls that I went to today where they talked about their businesses. There'll be more during the Monday sessions. And then on Tuesday, there's only one town hall, and it's actually one that I'm facilitating, where we're going to have 8 people, all of whom are at various levels of management in the food industry, all of whom have gone through the food industry management program at USC, all talking about things, leadership, what they learned in that educational experience and how they've applied it in their businesses. And we've got everybody from people who went through it 30 years ago to people who are just graduating from it now. So that's going to be really fascinating, and I look forward to telling you a little bit more about that. Anyway, that's what's on my mind, and as always, I want to hear what's on your mind.